Yes, very good afternoon to all of you. And as part of the OUCIP lecture series, today we are going to have 25th lecture by the scholar, the dynamic scholar of Osmania University, on behalf of the Osmania University Center for International Programs. Now it has been changed as Osmania University Center for International Studies, OUCIS. At the outset, my sincere gratitude and thankfulness to Dr. Srinivasulu sir is here. I welcome you, sir, for the lecture series. And the OUCAP has initiated the lecture series as part of this program. And lecture series is being conducted on Tuesday, every Tuesday. And today we have the variety topic. We have conducted 24 lectures so far. Today, the different topic by our own faculty member of Osmania University. And in fact, for the young teachers, uh, Professor Srinivasulu sir is very known with his academic, administrative skills, and apart from his administrative works, sir is well known from the point of view of the academics and the quality research. And personally, I feel privileged uh, to associate with Dr. C. Srinivasulu sir. And on behalf of the OUCAP, I extend my hearty congratulations to you, sir, on being appointed as the PRO to this great 100 years old university. Uh, as a matter of formality, just I want to introduce to the online participants from OUCAP YouTube channel and also on Google Meet. Dr. Srinivasulu sir is an associate professor of zoology in our own university, Osmania University, and he has been working as the director of the Center for Biodiversity and Conservation Studies, which is a center of excellence established with the support of MHRD, Government of India, under RUSA grant. And Dr. Srinivasulu heads the Wildlife Biology and Taxonomy Lab and is the curator of the Natural History Museum, Osmania University. He has been serving this great university in various academic, administrative capacities. Presently, he is holding the position of PRO to this great university. He is responsible for IQAC, as all we know, Osmania got NAC, A grade, and because of the contribution, we know how much he worked for that, how many sleepless nights Dr. Srinivasulu had spent for this university. And Sari has done his PhD 21 years ago, that is in the year 2000. And more importantly, he was a scientist from the period 2005 to 2007. Many projects. I, I have not seen a single faculty can do so many works, published more than 200 research papers in prestigious national and international journals. Is widely cited in the field of citation with index of 2812 and H index. And his recognition and his contribution has been recognized by the Telangana state government, and he is an expert member of the Telangana State Biodiversity Board. And good credentials Dr. Srinivasulu has. We, the young faculty, personally, I have a great respect on Dr. Srinivasulu sir because of his administrative, academic, the way he treats the people, a simple man with great ideas, with a high thinking, with a lot of creative thinking, and who never says no to the academic and administrative works. This university is blessed with many academicians, and undoubtedly, Dr. Srinivasulu comes in that line. Today, Dr. Srinivasulu is going to talk on biodiversity and its importance, titled Unkept Promises, Whom We Are Betraying. And I'm sure, and this lecture gives you a lot of understanding to look at the biodiversity and its various aspects. Thank you very much, sir, for your acceptance
Thank you.
to deliver your valuable thoughts. And I welcome you, sir. Over to Dr. Srinivasulu, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Konda Nageshwar Rao, the director of the International Center for International Studies of the Osmania University. I am equally privileged, and I feel humbled that so much has been spoken about me, and I, whenever I come to these kind of media, I speak about things that I like the most, the things that are with me deep in my heart, and the things that I am caring about. And this is when Dr. Nageshwar Rao invited me to give a talk to OUCIP lecture series. Then I said that what better than make our members realize that, and members understand what is the importance of all the biological diversity that we see all around us, and why it is important, and how we are responsible for conserving or preserving them, and then what promises we have made and where we are with respect to those promises. I had been told that we have about an hour, but this lecture takes, being passionate about it, I spend more time on that, but I'll try to quickly zip through and tell you about what these things are as we go out, and try to complete the lecture by 4 o'clock or something like that. So it's like we will know about the biological diversity, we'll know about what exactly it means, why it is important, what are the things that are impacting these biological diversities, and why, what are the various things that are threatening these biological diversity. And many a times when we say that because of these things many species are becoming extinct, we'll try to understand the process of extinction, and then try to understand what exactly currently we are looking at, what type of threats we are facing as biodiversity, and talk about what is the responsibility of society in general, and the government at large, that how we take these things into cognizance, and do actions, corrective measures, and mitigate the problems, and see that the biological diversity is conserved in future. So we are aware of the fact that there is no other place other than planet Earth on which life exists. Although we know that there have been lots of uh, attempts made to find out whether or not life exists elsewhere, but for the time being, we are aware of the fact that Earth is the only place on which life exists. That too in a very very narrow band, which is called as biosphere. And biodiversity as such could be understood as all the living organisms that we see on this earth. All the living organisms, the virus that is disturbing us, and we as human species, are the components of biological diversity. And when we talk about biological diversity or biodiversity, we understand them at three levels. At the level of the species, the left panel shows you how we understand this. If you see that in the left panel images, we have dogs and we have human beings, and no two human beings or no two dogs are similar in their character. So we see that these characters, or with these morphological features, all these variations come because of genetic diversity. So we understand that biological diversity comprises the genetic diversity. Then the center panel, if you pay attention, you will see that all of them look like dogs for general people who do not know about wild animals and other things. But all of these are not dogs. We in the center top panel, you see that there is a wolf, and then you have many different forms of dog family or species belonging to dog family. So we call this kind of diversity as species diversity. So within the dog family, you have, at least here I have photographed and I've shared the photograph of 7 different species. That is species diversity. And then in the right panel, if you pay attention, you will see that, there are lots of diversity with respect to the habitats that we see, the places in which these living organisms are there. But if you pay attention, we have, although there are no animals portrayed here in the right side panel, but we see that there are grasses, there are plants, etc., etc. And these are also living organisms, and they contribute to something called as ecosystem diversity. So diversity at a very large context to diversity within the population at the genetic level. So much of variability on this earth is seen because of this kind of diversity that exists all around us. The biological diversity are very, very important. The moment this morning when you started, you ate your breakfast, you wore your dress, you came, if you are dependent on medication, you have some kind of ailment and all those things, you might have popped in a pill or a tablespoon of syrup or something like that. All these things are coming from living organisms, that we have to remember. If not from the living organisms, the basic products came from living organisms, and we have started synthetically producing these things in the industries. So every living organisms that exist on this earth is kind of helping us in our survival. So when we want to understand what exactly the biological diversity or through ecosystems is giving us, we understand them as services. And the ecosystem services could be of cultural in nature. It could have, like spiritual and religious values, like many of our temples are located deep in the jungles. Many of our the places of worship are located in deep jungles, and we see, or maybe aesthetic value, we feel good if we go to any park, be it manicured park or into a jungle system. It has recreation and ecotourism value. It has mental and physical health. It helps us in keeping our stability. It helps us in, we say that we have to exercise daily, but we don't recommend that you exercise daily in the gym or walk on the treadmill. You get into the open area, walk in the park, walk in garden area, so that you will get good air, you will feel good. I don't know how many of you appreciate, but the fact is, as soon as you see any green coloration, you feel calmed. So that is the kind of services that the biological diversity does to us. When we talk about ecosystem provisioning, services in terms of provisioning, it provides us food, it provides us raw material for our medicines, it provides us raw material for our clothing, it provides us material for our medicines that we depend upon. It also provides us the fresh water that is needed for us to drink and survive. Then we talk about supporting services that the biological diversity does. It helps in nutrient cycling. Whatever nutrition that we are wanting, it gets cycled. So we know the laws of thermodynamics and all those things. Nothing is created, anew. All these things get cycled. So all these nutrition cycling is happening because of different groups of organisms that are living along with us. The energy that we need for surviving comes from plant material, and the plant material makes this energy through the process of photosynthesis. If the plants are not there and photosynthesis is not there, animals like us who depend upon energy that comes from autotrophs or plants will not survive. So that is the kind of supporting system service that this biological diversity gives us. There are many things like soil formation, recycling, etc., etc. But to understand them, we know that now, for example, now let's start looking at regulating services that the biological diversity does. Air quality, if you have good plants in a ecosystem, you will have better air quality compared to areas where you don't have good green cover. Climate regulation, water regulation, erosion regulation, water purification, waste treatment, disease regulation, pest regulation, pollination. Many such regulating activities biological diversity is doing. All the living organisms all around us are giving these, services to us. We, without even noticing it, understanding it, etc., etc. At the back end, they are doing all these things to us. So our survival, our species' survival or human survival depends totally on all the living organisms that we are sharing this earth with. Now, but unfortunately, the biological diversity is under threat. Under threat because of many reasons. The threats could be because of the climate change, or because it is natural in nature, or it could be, man-made, anthropogenic in nature. So one of the most important aspects that we understood that the biological diversity is threatened with is the climate change. Very recently, the COP, Conference of Parties on Climate Change has concluded in Glasgow, and many countries, including India, has appreciated and has recognized that climate change is a real problem. And all of us have again recommitted ourselves to, take steps to reduce the impact of climate change on this earth and on all the living organisms that we have on this earth. So climate change as such is a reality. During the Trump administration, Trump himself was not, agreeing to climate change, but climate change is a reality. Arctic and Antarctic ice shelves are melting. The ocean levels or sea levels are increasing. Lots of changes are happening. Lots of, new virus and bacteria that had been, trapped in these ice are, being released, and lots of new challenges with respect to health and disease for human beings are coming up because of climate change. Deforestation is happening all over the world. Everywhere deforestation is happening. Acres and acres, or hectares and hectares, lakhs and lakhs of hectares, millions of hectares of, forest is being cleared, either for infrastructure development, or for setting up industries, or for setting up human habitations. So lots of damage is being done. When we are clear felling a forest, we are not only cutting the trees, but we are also snatching away the homes of millions of species of animals that live in those forests. So this is also a big problem. Pollution, the next biggest problem is pollution in the form of, pollution that we see with respect to water pollution, with respect to air pollution, soil pollution, with respect to, sound pollution, and all those things. But also we see that, the biggest problem in the past 50, 60 years is with respect to the plastic pollution. Microplastics are found everywhere. Plastic is found everywhere. Even in the deepest of the ocean floors, we are finding plastic. So the plastic has gone everywhere. Plastic pollution is one of the best example to tell every one of us that, how these things which we think is very, very minute and a kind of, inconsequential, really matters. And we see that, so much of pollution, so much of bad things are happening to nature. These pollutions you might have seen on social media about, birds getting entangled in the plastic net, animals are getting entangled in nets, or birds having plastic straws, going through their mouth, etc., etc., beaks, etc. All these things very clearly tells us that, pollution has impacted the living organisms, including human beings, everywhere. You would be surprised to know that the microplastic is so very much become the integral part of our body physiological system, that today, if breastfeeding mother's milk you take and try to, uh, look for microplastic in the milk of a human mother, you will find microplastic. You will detect microplastic. It simply means that we are, as human beings, not feeding the purest of the purest nutrition to our younger generation. We are giving them poisons through our breasts. So that is the situation where we have gone to. If at all we have to think about human beings versus animals. Animals, nobody cares. Many of us do not care. Some of us who care, we also start appreciating that, what kind of impact these things have on them. Now, one of the most important threat that we have seen with respect to biodiversity is the human population itself. We are almost about nearing 7.5 billion in numbers, and our population increase has put lots of pressure on the natural resources throughout the world. The coal situation, the problems that we faced in the past few months about the coal depletion and all those things. At the same time, we have gone, Narendra Modi sir has gone, and he has promised the world, saying that we are going to by 2100 we are going to become zero impact kind of country, and all such kind of things. But see, where are you going to become like that unless and until you control your numbers? You would not be able to achieve those targets. Our numbers are going to increase in next 20 years. We are going to touch somewhere around 9 billion. So that is the kind of numbers that we are looking at, and limited natural resources we are looking at. So we as a species and our population numbers itself is a big threat for the biological diversity all around us. We have understood these things. In the past, we have seen that in lots and lots of species are becoming extinct. The image over here is of honeybees, and honeybees throughout the world are getting extinct. In many places, in Osmania University campus, or in areas wherever you are, you might have appreciated the fact that when you were kids or when you were young, you might have seen lots of honey hives, beehives everywhere in the village or in the vicinity or in the campus, etc. But today you have to seldomly you will see one or two beehives here and there. What has happened to them? Why we are seeing less and less number of beehives? Only thing is because of pollution, because of changes in the ecosystem, because of climate change. These organisms are not able to find the food they require within the ecosystem, and they are slowly and slowly locally becoming extinct. So extinctions are happening because of human created situations. But when we talk about all these things, people most of the time say that extinctions are natural processes. I say yes, extinctions are natural processes, and I'll let you know about that. But when we look at the way the the threats are impacting the biological diversity, or for that matter of fact, our food production capabilities and all those things, it is everywhere. It is not that these problems are affecting a particular part of the world. No, it is not like that. If you see that, it is same everywhere, be it in Africa, be it in Asia, or any part of this world. So when we talk about extinctions, extinctions are natural processes by means of which a species becomes extinct, and the last of the living individual of that particular species is dead. So you cannot find species. It's a natural process. In the past, extinctions have happened, and in this particular slide, you can see that it's a fossil of a dinosaur that has become extinct almost about 80 billion years ago. But these, in the past, we have seen that earth has already witnessed five major extinction processes, and of which I'll just very quickly tell you that the first extinction happened almost about 443 million years ago. And this extinction has led to extermination or depletion of as many as 85% of living species on this earth. Then 372 million years ago, the second extinction has happened, and this extinction happened when the fishes were diversifying, and as many as 79 to 87% of species, living organisms, most of them in the ocean. So far the life was still in the ocean, they have become extinct. And the third extinction happened at 252 million years ago. And this extinction is nicknamed as the Great Dying. And as many as 96% of the species have become extinct during this process. So you see that life on Earth has reached to the extinction point as much as 96, 97%. The 96% and 97 or whatever percentage, these are all base estimations as such. But If you see, the great dying tells us that as many as 96% of the species living on this earth became extinct, and left species, whatever survived, they diversified and became what we see in the subsequent time scales. The fourth extinction happened almost about 201 million years ago, and this led to the extinction of as many as 76 to 84% of the species. And this was the time when most of the dinosaurs became extinct, and dinosaurs lived on this earth for quite a long time, almost about 160 million years. And during those 160 million years, many dinosaur species were becoming extinct. But the final blow for the dinosaurs came at the fifth extinction, and this is called as end Cretaceous extinction. And as many as 71 to 81% of species became extinct. All the dinosaurs species became extinct during this extinction period. It happened almost about 65, 62 to 66 million years ago, and this is the sixth extinction. You have to remember, human beings did not evolve, human beings did not originate even during this time. 66 million years ago, our ancestors in the form of small mammals, they were roaming around between these dinosaurs. Because of their small size, they survived. All the other organisms died, and then all the large bodied dinosaurs died. And from the survivors, all the living forms that we see all around us today have evolved out. So we see that, human beings were not there. Human beings are there since past maybe 1.5 lakhs years. We are talking about millions of years, and we are comparing it with 1.5 lakh years. Since past 1.5 lakh years, we have become what we are as a human species. We are the youngest species. And then in the past 30,000 years, we became civilized. Civilization as such, I would say that past 12 to 14,000 years only. In the past 12 to 14,000 years, we became what we are. And in the past 1,000 years, in fact, the scientific revolution, industrial revolution, all those things happened only 600, 700 years back. Before that, we were still, right, primitive human beings. But in the past, uh, after the industrial revolution, scientific revolution, and all those things, we became what we are today as such. So because of the human extinction process, human development, and all those things, we have entered into a scenario wherein, because of our activities, animals are becoming extinct, plants are becoming extinct. So that is what we show it over here, saying that this is where the current extinctions are happening. The projected extinctions, naturally occurring extinctions, were right here, but we are seeing the extinctions are happening here. So we have recognized, scientists have recognized, that we are undergoing the sixth extinction process, and that is what is called as Holocene extinction. So presently, the Earth is witnessing the sixth extinction. You might be wondering, okay, extinction happens, it's a natural process. We have just learned about those things, but you have to remember, the earlier extinction processes were happening because of natural calamities, natural processes, whereas the present extinction that we are talking about, it is because of the activities or the problems that we have created as a human species on this earth. In the recent past, it was a couple of years back, we have also found that there was one major extinction period, and that we ignored. Yeah, but very recently in 2019, we have recognized it as one of the major extinction. So we know that there was one more extinction that happened somewhere around 259.8 million years ago. So what is the problem with respect to the extinction that we are presently witnessing? The problem of the Holocene extinction is, the Holocene extinction is 100 to 1000 times the background extinction rates. When I say background extinction rates, the natural process of extinction rates. So what exactly it means? It means that if in the past one species was becoming extinct by the natural process in 1 year, today 100 to 1000 species are becoming extinct in 1 year. That is what you have to see. And then scientists have also kind of, estimated in future this background extinction rate, or the extinction that is kind of, being driven by human beings, would rise as much as 10,000 times. That means instead of 100 species becoming extinct in 1 year, you would be having 10,000 species becoming extinct in 1 year. And these are not just, numbers, or they are not just, things that I'm just pulling out and talking to you. These are the facts that we have evidence. It's the evidence based facts that I'm sharing with you. So all around us, we see the problems. We see elephants, we see rhinoceros, we see tigers being poached. We see that, if there are dead birds that we come across, dead mammals that we come across, and we cut open, we see plastics being present there. As I told you, if you take my blood and to do the, microplastic analysis, my blood would have microplastic analysis, presence in it. We see that, extinction is happening. We see many species are becoming extinct. We also have understood that, the coral reefs that survive in the oceans are getting affected because of ocean acidification and temperatures in the oceans rising. We also see that, lots and lots of amphibians, especially frogs and toads, populations have declined drastically because of pollution, because of, temperature changes, climate change, etc., etc. Throughout the world, we have seen honeybees, dying. Honeybees are becoming, vanishing from the ecosystems throughout the world. It is not just for India and, Asia or something like that. So the current scenario is very, very, very kind of, scary. The current scenario very clearly tells us that out of the all the species for which we have some kind of information, and scientists have done some kind of assessment, or scientists have understood what kind of threats are there and all such kind of things, we have found out that as many as 28% of the species are threatened with extinction. In terms of numbers, 35,500 species we have recognized they are threatened with extinction. When I say we have, I belong to an international NGO called as International Union for Conservation of Nature, and I do the red listing, and the red list team declares that, how many species are threatened with extinction, etc., etc. So we know that 40% of the amphibians, 26% of the mammals, 34% of the conifers, 14% of birds, 33% of coral reefs, 33% of sharks and ray fishes in the ocean, and 28% of crustaceans are threatened with extinction. In simple terminology, every fourth species of mammal, every organism that has air, every fourth species is threatened with extinction. Every second species, the populations are declining. Every second species, the population is declining. So that is the scenario that we are currently in. We have assessed as many as 67,222 species, living organisms, of which we found that 748 species have become extinct in the wild, extinct totally. And we found that, as many as 34 species have become extinct in the wild. 2,851 species are critically endangered. 4,314 species are endangered. 6,102 species are vulnerable, and rest of the species are like least concern species. When we come with respect to talk with respect to plants, we have assessed 24,230 species of plants, and we found that as many as 4,123 species are endangered, 2,722 species are critically endangered, and then we also see that as many as 1,118 species have become extinct. And whatever we are talking about in the last 500 years. So the more the knowledge we are getting or gaining from understanding the species diversity all around us, the more we are finding that the most number of species are threatened with extinction. The green graph shows that, the number of species that we have assessed, and the the colored, bluish colored line, it shows how the threatened number of species also increasing. as our understanding goes further and further. So this cartoon or this graph very clearly tells us, what are the quantum of species that are threatened with extinction. So it is more scientific. I'm not going to go into the detail, but very simply put, as much as 65% of cycads, if you can just pay attention at the bottom line, 65% of the cycads are in the threatened category. So that way we can see that, most of them are like, in threatened category. So in if we have to understand it in a simple terminology, we see that, if we start looking at how many species were there and how many species are now, right from 1980 onwards until this time, maybe 2012 or something like that, when this published this particular paper was published, we see that these many species are declining. We do not see anything increasing. All these species are declining. Mammals are gradually declining. Amphibians, you can see, appreciate the decline quite obviously. Birds little gradually, but pay attention towards corals. You see in little time lots of corals have been, species have become extinct. So this is something which is very, very kind of alarming. If species can become extinct, we are also species and we can also become extinct. That is what we have to remember. Many a times we start thinking that oh, nothing can uh, harm human species as such, but the fact remains is, if something else is dying because of these causes, we are also gonna die, no matter what kind of medicinal or medical progression with terms to taking care of our health, or taking mitigating disease problems, etc., etc., is nothing. You have to remember, we are also animals, like living organisms like others, and we are also prone to the natural selection. So this graph is very clearly tells us that how many species we have assessed and how many species have become extinct. Quickly, I'll just tell you that out of the species that we have seen, 748 species of animals that have become extinct, you might be wanting to know which groups of animals have become extinct more. This data tells us that chordata, 362 species of chordates have become extinct. Chordates are those animals that have backbone. Chordates are those animals that that belong to our category. And there are 81 species of arthropods, 301 species of mollusks, soft-bodied, snails and oysters, etc. That kind of species, they have become extinct. Then among the chordates, if you want to know that which species, which group of organisms have become extinct, then we see that 156 species of birds have become extinct, followed by 81 species of mammals, to which we belong to, followed by 63 species of actinopterygii, fishes, followed by 33 species of frogs and toads, amphibians, followed by 28 species of reptiles, snakes, lizards, etc., etc. So we have lost so many species because of our activity. These are not because of natural extinction processes. This is because of our activity, because we have gone into the forest, we started clearing the forest, we have hunted many species to extinction. Knowingly or unknowingly, we were responsible for extinction of many species. This is about plants. I am just skipping through for a reason, that I'm considering that all of us do not belong to biology background, so I'm just making it more generalized way of making you understand. So plant extinctions are also happening, although the information that we have with respect to plants is not that robust, because lots of research needs to be done with respect to plant extinction. So now this cartoon very clearly tells us about how many percentages of groups of organisms are becoming extinct. And pay attention towards the timeline at the bottom. If you see that since 1500 onwards, we have been recording the extinction processes and all those things, we see that it is almost about gradual until 1800. And once we have got into the domain, or into the age wherein we have discovered locomotion, we have motorized our locomotion, we started exploring new areas, etc., etc. Since 1800 onwards till present, we see that the extinction rates have kind of shot up. So all these examples that you can just pay attention towards, then you will see that they have shot up in the past 200 years. And try to compare it with the dotted line at the bottom. At the bottom, if you can pay attention, you will see the dotted line. And that dotted line is the background extinction rate. And now you will appreciate the fact that what I told you a few slides back, that the current extinction rates are 100 to 1,000 times higher, and it is expected that it will go 10,000 times higher in future. So what we need to do, we need to take steps to mitigate, to reduce these activities, to reduce the things that we are doing on this earth, to see and ensure that all the other living organisms also survive. So related to this, it was in 1992, as many as 1,700 species scientists have come together, and they have formed a conglomerate, and then they have formed a small group, and they said that we are the world scientists, and we are releasing the warning based on scientific information. We are releasing the warning to all the governments, to the society in general, saying that you have to take into cognizance what we are doing, how the earth and the natural resources are coping with, and what needs to be done to reduce these things. It was in 1992, we had the first World Biodiversity Summit. And during that time in Rio de Janeiro, the scientists have released this warning to humanity, saying that we need to have a great change in our stewardship of the earth and life. And if we don't do these things, then it would be difficult for us to survive in future. 25 years, more than 25 years have passed since that warning has been given. People have been putting up warning signs saying that we need to take care of ozone depletion. We need to take care of freshwater availability. We need to take care of, marine life. We need to take care of oceans. We need to take care of our forests. We need to take care of our biological diversity all around us. We need to take care of climate change. And we need to also control our population. All these things had been, flagged, red flagged way back, almost about 30 years back onwards. Society, intellectuals, scientists, people who are active in the conservation science, they had been telling the governments to take actions on this. And what is happening, one of the most important things that we have to keep in mind is our population. As I told you, by 2048, we will be 9 billion, closing to 9 billion. So currently we are somewhere between 7 and 8 billion. So that will increase in less time. See, pay attention once again to the graph. We see it was 1 billion somewhere around 1804. It took almost about 120 plus years to become 2 billion, for doubling. But if you see from 2 billion to 4 billion, it took less than 50 years. In 1974, we became 4 billion. And by 2000, we became 7 billion. So just see that, how fastly our population is reproducing and our numbers are increasing. And that number is going to reach to 9 billion by 2048. And lots of pressure would be exerted on Earth's natural resources. In the past 25 years, what have we done? 25 plus years, 27 years, what have we done? We have almost done nothing. Excepting the ozone layer control, all the other aspects that we have spoken about, all of them, we failed to make any mark, any dent with respect to our policies, with respect to our actions on ground, etc., etc. I was very happy when Narendra Modi ji promised the world that, this is what we are going to take and, take action. And we are going to see that we are going to become zero emission country by 2100. But the biggest question is, with the population increasing so much, with the kind of, GDP that we are having, with the kind of, problems that we are having, with the kind of divide that we have between the haves and have-nots, where are we going to? How are we going to solve these things? Do you think that it would be possible for Government of India to put in all the required infrastructure to convert from dependency on renewable resources to non-renewable resources. No, it would be like, lots of things needs to be placed in on ground first, and then the actions needs to be taken. So similarly, we have seen in the past 25 to 30 years, what we had been promising, we were not able to keep up. And that's the reason why I said that, these are the unkept promises. We need to start thinking on it. Just by becoming sensitized about these things, we will change our behavior, we will change our attitude, we will start contributing towards, making this earth a better place to live. Many small things that we start thinking that it is very important, development is important, infrastructure is important, on all such kind of things. I know these are important. We need road structures, we need dams, we need everything. But at the same time, we have to also start thinking that how it is going to impact the ecosystem there, and is the putting up of a particular dam in a particular place is more valuable than the damages that we are making in the long run. So that is what needs to be understood. If we have seen lots of landslides happening in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh area, it is because of wrong planning. We have constructed dams everywhere in eco-sensitive areas, and we have, flash floods happening. We stop thinking about, the situations that happens in the lower Himalayas and middle Himalayas. Start thinking about what is happening in Kerala. In Kerala also, we have, regular problems of flooding, flash flooding happening, and all those things, dams, you know breaking, and all such kind of things happening. Why? This is only because we have not thought about what needs to be done and to what threshold it needs to be done. So lots of things, lots of bad things are happening, lots of things that we think are good for ourselves. Maybe for this generation it's good, but we are snatching away peace from the future generation of human beings. We are snatching away their, living life quality from the future people of human beings. 30 years back, we never used to have, ACs in our rooms. We used to survive, we used to be happy with, a small table fan or, a handheld fan. But today, every room in every apartment, every home has a AC. So our behavior is changing, not because we are having access to those things, but because we are able to afford it. And that mentality needs to change. That mentality needs to change, because although we have enough money to buy those things, but at the long run, we are impacting the ecosystem, we are impacting the environment, we are impacting our own, adaptation to the situations. So that needs to be taken into cognizance to see that, how exactly we go about in future and how we behave ourselves in future. This is just a diagram to just tell you that, how our road infrastructure has increased. If you see the whole of USA and the whole of, Europe, most part of the Europe, you see the roads are well laid. When roads are laid, ecosystems are broken into pieces, small pieces, fragmented. We call them as fragmented habitats. Although from human point of view, roads are good because it helps us, taking our goods or ourselves from point A to point B easily. But at the same time, at the cost of all the biological diversity, we are doing that. So in India, the road infrastructure is increasing, although we are not bright red as we see in America or in Europe, or in, as you can pay attention towards Japan. We are catching up. But you see, total of India, excepting that part of desert in the northwest of India, you can see a very small, portion is blue in color. So the Thar Desert and Rann of Kutch are the area where the road network is not well developed. Elsewhere, we see that, it is amber in color, and it's yellow and amber in color, and it's going to become red in future. If we want to convert this information with respect to how much of grasslands that are available, because when we talk about forests, grasslands, habitats, etc., in which multitude of animals and living organisms live, etc., if we see, then the grassland conditions that are suitable for living organisms as well as for agriculture purposes and all such kind of things, India is doing good, right? If you see, look at India, it is, in that olive gray kind of coloration. You can see the whole of India is olive gray coloration. It shows that it is having good potential, the grassland potentials to be converted into agro ecosystems, etc., etc. But when we talk about the biological diversity or the living organisms that live within the soil, that impacts the forest ecosystem and the grassland ecosystem, etc., etc., then we lose. So if you see, pay attention towards India again, in the arid regions of Northwest, in the Thar Desert and the Ran of Kutch and all those things, that is not very good. But throughout India, it is okay. It is between, average to high level. Especially in the Western Ghats, in the Himalayan regions, you have good soil biodiversity index. Wonderful. It's good to know. But if I look at what problems I have with respect to threats that are impacting the soil biodiversity, if you look at India, you will see India is all red. So we have very high potential threats to soil biodiversity. On one side, last slide, I told you that we have good soil biodiversity can exist and all such kind of things. Wonderful. But at the same time, in this slide, I'm explaining to you that we also have equally good threats acting against this soil biodiversity to impact them in future, to make them go away, to, may temporarily or locally become extirpated. So the reality all around us is untimely flooding, untimely rains, climate change, climate impacted changes that we see in the weather pattern, etc., etc. This is the photograph of 2011 floods that happened in Bangkok. Lots of lives were lost, and I'm not going to. And this is something that we have to understand with respect to climate change. What is exactly happening? With climate change, the temperatures of the global warming is happening. The temperatures of the Earth's surface is increasing. When the temperature increases, then the ice in the Arctic region, Antarctic region, they are melting. And here in this sequence of panels of photographs that you can see, starting from 1949 to 2013, we see that how the ice shelf, the permafrost, has started to slowly and slowly disintegrate, started to melt and become, totally melted, and then they disintegrate and they float into the oceans. The white line that you see in between, in right from 1972 panel onwards, is the road that had been laid. And if you pay attention, on the northern side or the upper portion of the road, you see the melting is different, and on the southern portion, the melting is different. And infrastructure, a linear infrastructure constructed by human beings, has created such variation in this way. So all these things are just to make you understand that, how exactly climate change is also leading to so much of devastation, not only in places there, but also, as I told you in the beginning, they are releasing all the trapped virus and bacteria that were there millions of years ago, got trapped in them. They are being released. And human species, as I told you, is a very, very recent species. We are just babies now. We don't even know how to react, how to adapt to, new types of virus. COVID situation has given us knock on the head, and it is telling us that, you have to be very, very careful. If not, new types of virus or new type of bacteria, if it comes and impacts human beings, lots of lives would be lost. And this scientifically is a part of natural selection. Those of us who are not able to, adapt to the changing ecosystem, changing environment, we will be thrown out and new species would be brought in. But as a human being who claims ourselves to be the most intelligent species on this earth, don't you think we have to stop now and start thinking that, okay, we have to reduce the damage that we are doing on this earth and start behaving properly and responsibly, so that the future generation in future would not be blaming us for creating a situation like this. Droughts are reality. The unavailability of drinking water is reality. Those of us who wander through the vast expanse of India and travel to many different places in India, we have seen these realities. People have to walk miles and miles and kilometers to get drinking water. And you and I would not be drinking, water coming from this kind of hand pump, because these we feel the rust in the water. But at the same time, how do you think that we should allow our brethren and sisters in the village to drink such kind of water? So it becomes important for us to understand and take the responsibility. uh, Agriculture, although we are wanting to have more and more of agriculture, but at the same time intensive agriculture, industrial scale agriculture, etc., etc., but at the same time in developing countries throughout the world, we see there is a bigger and bigger problems with respect to pesticide usage, chemical fertilizer usage, and all such kind of things. So lots of food is being made. There is no doubt that agriculture yield is increasing, but at the same time we have compromised on the quality of the yield, quality of the food grains that we are getting. We are soaking them, let me use this word, we are soaking them in pesticides, we are fortifying them with uh, poisons, which we for our convenience call them as chemical fertilizers. No, it's not good for us. And throughout the world, we have witnessed lots and lots of emergence and re-emergence of new diseases. Diseases that could be because of zoonotic nature, diseases that are coming from protozoan organisms, diseases that are because of bacteria, diseases because of virus, etc., etc. Not only that, because of our activity of controlling these things, we are also creating new breeds of organisms or disease causing agents that are becoming more and more resistant to all these controlling mechanisms that we have put in place. We know that today we have so many bacteria that are antibiotic resistant bacteria. These are the strains of bacteria that have developed resistance against penicillin. Earlier, used penicillin to kill the bacteria, but we use the penicillin in such a manner that we train the bacteria to develop resistance against penicillin. Today, we have so many different pathogens that have, developed the resistance against these antibiotics or these medications that we use. That's the reason why we are, getting into the domain of new diseases, etc. Sea level rises throughout the world. We are having this sea level rise happening. We have many smaller Pacific island countries that are you know saying that in next 20 years, if next 10 years, we might be submerged totally. This is the photograph that comes from Sundarban flooding area, Sundarbans in Bangladesh. And these villages, quite often we call them as temporary villages, but for them this is a permanent dwelling space. They quite often get submerged throughout. And it is said that almost about more than 60% of Bangladesh would be submerged in the next 20 years. So if the sea level keeps rising, so already because of tsunami, we have already lost, almost 60% of Nicobar Islands. 60% of Nicobar Islands we have lost because of tsunami and sea level rise. So that is the situation that we are talking about. Floodings are happening everywhere. This is the photograph that comes from, if I am not mistaken, yes, this is coming from Kerala. Kerala floods, quite often it is happening. And wildfire in Australia, in America, in India also we have wildfire, problems. Everywhere it is happening. In Australia, the scale was too huge. Lots of wild animals died. Lots of wild species that are endemic and unique to those particular forest patches, they have been wiped out. Why are these wildfires happening? Again, because of climate change. Again, because of sometimes wildfire happen in Indian scenario because somebody wants to lit it, I know, for light the forest, and then for enjoyment or for other, reasons. So forest fires are all, you know, and it is also said that, by 2050 and 2060, 70% of the human populations would be living in cities. About 20 years back, when I used to commute from my home to Osmania University, I used to come within 28 minutes, and today the same distance I have to travel for 48 to 52 minutes. Okay, during the, say, peak uh, you know uh, traffic hour. So in 20 years back, when I used to start at 9 o'clock from my home, in 2020, 22 minutes to 28 minutes, I used to reach Osmania University, my department. But today, when I start at 9 o'clock from my home, I reach university by 9:55, 9:48 to 9:55, somewhere in between that time. Same distance, but I am spending more time on road because of traffic. Lot of people are using. So this is going to create lots of problem. And as I told you, every apartment, every flat, every home has multiple electronic gadgets, ACs, and all those things. All these things are putting pressure on the biological resources. Today, if we are not able to, produce enough electricity, it is because the coal resources are getting limited. And when the coal resources are getting limited, we would not get, electricity as we should get. So the lesser we use these, resources, the better it would be for all of us. So that is what we have to understand. So throughout the world, the negative impacts are happening. I will just very quickly go through. This is not for us, but what we have to realize, in the past so many years, since 1970 until now, almost about 50 plus years, we see the global living planet index. That means the way the, what you say, the planet Earth supports human beings to live. If I have to scale it, then it is declining. From 1970, we started to think that there is a index value of 1. And since then, if you see, until 2014, the recent one I could not update because I did not get it. But until 2014, we see that, it is declining. The livability, or the quality of livability of planet Earth, is on decline since past 50 years. It is not becoming good place. Although you might be saying, sir, I used to live in, village hut, and today I am living in apartment. Wonderful, sir. For me individually, I have progressed, but on earth, we are not progressing, we are declining. That is what we have to, all of us who think about, progressing, we think in our personal matter, in our personal domain, personal sphere. But when we look at ourselves as a big species, big family, we are not doing progress, we are worsening the situation. Now, if you look at this particular thing, wherein we are talking about carbon footprint, built up land footprint, fishing grounds footprint, and all those things, since past so many years, it has been increasing. The last year lockdown, because of COVID and all those things, have shown that there is some kind of decline. And if you can see the dotted line, the world biocapacity, if you see, and you see the grade line on the top, you will see that especially the carbon footprint, started to decline. You have got many a times on social media and in news also, you might have read and came across this news item saying that, many cities reported good air quality index because of lockdown, because no vehicles were coming out. Lots of, improvement in the air quality, no carbon dioxide, no more carbon monoxide, everything. So now the world has realized that, we should get into this mode wherein we are working from home is great, and reducing our transportation from coming to one place, homes to offices, etc., etc. Carbon footprint, in 1 year we have declined the carbon footprint significantly. If we continue to do that over next few years or decades, it might improve our quality of, living on earth. So we have also, as many as, we have set up 17 sustainable development goals, of which many we are targeting. In some we are doing good, in some we are yet to start, in some we have not done anything. But here I am going to focus on two things. I am looking at the clock, it's already 4 o'clock. I am looking at two things, and these two things are human development indicators and environmental indicators. And just pay attention, in human development indicators, did we end, we have put some targets to ourselves, and the targets were like end hunger. Did we do anything good? We are progressing, but we are not doing satisfactorily. And the preventable deaths of children under 5 years, we are progressing okay, satisfactorily, but not doing great. Achieve universal access to safe drinking? Same. Universal access to adequate sanitation? Same. Achieve universal access to modern energy services? Same. But look at the environmental indicators. If you see the environmental indicators, you will see we are doing bad with respect to improving water quality, water scarcity, limiting global warming, reducing marine nutrient pollution, ocean acidification, and all these aspects we are like, missing the target, and we are doing missing and moving away from the target, in fact, negatively. That is what we have to remember. So the way we look at the planet Earth presently on which we are living, and in the next 30, 40 years that we look at, for the next couple of generations that we have to think about, our Earth is becoming more and more worse place to live. If people ask me how many kids you have, I say one. Why one? Because I don't want to bring more kids on this planet Earth and give a bad earth or bad place for them to live. Because more responsibility, I have to start thinking about them, what would happen to them in future. So I don't want those kind of things to happen to my future generations. So all those things we have to start thinking about. So what we have to see in this particular slide, you can very clearly see that this is a photograph taken from a satellite, from the Saturn, from the and in the shadows of the Saturn, and the dot that is represented by or indicated by the arrow is planet Earth. And this is the only place on which you have life. This is the only place on which Elon Musk and Dr. Srinivasulu and Dr. Konda Nageshwar Rao can live, as is with all of us. Even with lots of tons and millions and trillions of dollars with us, we would not be able to survive anywhere else other than this planet Earth. So it becomes our responsibility that we understand the problems this Earth is facing, the problems that the biological diversity, when I say biological diversity, all the living organisms, including us, are facing, and then start bringing in that paradigm shift with respect to our thinking, with respect to our way of reacting to the realities, and then start working on taking care of this Earth. If not, it would be not very late, it would be very soon that human species would be extinct species in maybe by 2100. In fact, scientifically, I say that, I give 2150 as the date. After that, human species would be like mutant or extinct. So if we don't take care of ourselves. So that's the last slide. And I thank the OUCIP and Konda Nageshwar Rao sir and all of you who have listened to me patiently for the opportunity given. It's open for discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. In fact, you made us to forget the time, and I forgot the time. You have taken us to the science groups. In fact, we belong to the arts departments. We do not know the biodiversity. Of course, we know here and there and the discussions, but once you have taken us like English, like biology teacher, you have taken us to the nature, you have made us to look at the nature from different perspective. We the literature scholars, and we find the different aspect in the biodiversity certainly, and it is going to be the wonderful paper. In fact, it is going to be the wonderful research paper. The participants are able to put the things on the paper. I'm sure this is going to be the wonderful research paper. I'm sure. I think that the participants may not have the doubts, because the lecture itself is the clarification of the doubts. We have not given any scope to the doubts at all. But as a matter of formality, participants are requested to respond, to ask, to clarify your queries, comments, anything. Just you are requested to switch on your video and audio. You can talk to the resource person directly from YouTube, and also from the participants who are on Google Meet.
Yeah, one thing that I just wanted to make a point is, the problems that I have spoken about, although it seems comes from science because a scientist is speaking, biologist or zoologist is speaking, it seems to be disconnect from non-science people and all such kind of things. But I want to underline the fact that all of us are human beings, whatever group we belong to. The problems that I have told, the dependency that I have told, all belongs to us collectively. It is not the responsibility of only scientists to think about or science students to think about these things. It is also the responsibility of each and every one of us
Yes.
to start taking into cognizance the facts and start reacting and behaving responsibly. So unless only scientists cannot, scientists will escape, right? A handful of scientists will go and set up a colony on moon or Mars, but all of us who do not have money or do not have this thing will be looking at them and dying on this earth. So that is wrong. So it is our collective responsibility irrespective of what field we are coming from, because in morning I ate, say, idlis. Almost about 40 or 50% of you might have eaten rice based breakfast, if not wheat based, rice based breakfast. So it is common for all of us. So that is what we have to remember.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Mm. Shamil, did you find any questions on YouTube Live?
No, sir. No questions
Yes,
from YouTube.
because you have introduced us the road which is not trodden. These unkept promises have to be fulfilled, and these are the things that really one has to look into the nature.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, sir, for your time and thoughts, and made us. You have made our day as very important day by your lecture. It was like flowing like anything, and we did not find. Yeah, sir. We got a question from the participants. Yeah, it is compliment, a thought
Yeah,
provoking
it's a compliment that I just saw.
compliment. It's not
Thank you.
doubt.
Yeah.
Just
Thank you very much,
literally,
Tirupat Reddy. Thank you.
yeah, I am searching for the doubts, but no, interestingly I received the compliment only. uh, Thank you very much, sir, for your
Thank you.
time and
Thanks a lot.
thought. The way you have planned the lecture, very meticulous, very wonderful. And personally, I have learned many things from your lecture, even no, while lecturing, the things that you have maintained today is very important to the resource person. Thank you very much, sir. As a matter of formality, I invite Mr. Shamil, coordinator of lecture series, to propose a formal vote of thanks to the lecture series. Shamil, over to you.
Uh, Thank you, sir. One second, let me open my camera.
You?
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Uh, Thanks for the opportunity given, sir. I'm really have no idea that I'll be given this opportunity for this great lecture. It was very enticing and inspiring, sir. Whole throughout the lecture, yes, as you pointed out at the end, that it is all about human beings more than about one subject. And I really realized so many things, like literal, very fragile things in our life, like eating breakfast and going out for a walk, also impacts the nature and also gives a great balance to the nature. And you also came up with Modi ji's words and the promises. It was really a great, and I have big paper I have written for this for the whole lecture. Thank you, sir. Thanks for taking your valuable time to fit in this lecture, and thanks for all the participants. Please give us 24 hours time from now. We will send your certificates on mail. Thank you.
Thanks a lot once again. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.